3, 2, 1.
Hello, everybody. This is Arwen Lewis, and you're listening to The Arwen Lewis Show. Today is a very special show. I have my very special guest, Andras Jones, and also Logan and Parker from Walk the Whale. And we're here promoting a show that we're doing at Lost Chord Guitars on Saturday, February 24th at 8 p.m. We'll all be performing on the bill that night. It's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of eclectic music, good vibes. And you can get tickets at lostchordguitars.com. And if you're one of my listeners, I'm sure you're a little familiar with me already, so I won't bore you with my bio. But I'll start with Andras Jones and then read a little bit about Walk the Whale to all of you. So, Andras Jones is a songwriter with roots in Olympia, Boston, and Los Angeles. His band, Mr. Jones and the Previous, alternately Mr. Jones and the Fascists, in Mr. Jones and the Hard Feelings and Simply the Previous, released 5 albums and toured extensively through the 1990s. Before the Previous, Jones was in the Boone with Josh Clayton Felt, later of School of Fish. After the Previous, Jones toured and released music solo, sharing stages and sessions with the likes of Dan Byrne, Spearhead, Jackson Brown, John Wesley Harding, Michelle Schacht, Patti Smith, Andy Dick, Sarah Silverman, Shmushkin, and Chris Sand, aka Sandman, the Rappin' Cowboy. Jones' new album is entitled Recognize, De-escalate De-code. The first single, Get Out of My Head, is currently hitting the indie radio charts around the world. Here's outside of music, Andras is known as an actor for films like A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master, and TV shows like Saved by the Bell. He's the creator and host of the Radio 8 Ball show, where guests are invited to ask questions which are answered by picking songs at random and interpreting them like musical tarot cards. He is the host of the World is Wrong podcast and the author of Accidental Initiations and This Calabastic Tree of Olympia from Sync Book Press. Andras performs the song Crazy Captain Gunboat, Willie, on the upcoming Lowell George tribute Long Distance Love from Flatiron Records alongside artists like Elvis Costello, Ben Harper, and Inara George, due to be released in March 2024. Keep an eye out for that. It's very cool. Cool bio, Andras.
Yeah, too much of it. Honestly, I'm sorry.
Oh, not with that attitude.
Oh, it's story time. You know, this is talk radio.
Right.
Okay, Logan and Parker, I get to read your bio again. Love it.
This is what I want to hear.
Thanks. Oh.
Okay, everybody
You
gets
say
5 more
that.
minutes. It's a great story. So Walk the Whale is the brainchild of Logan and Parker, 2 longtime friends from music school who reconnected over a kindling desire to make good on their passions and get their music out in the world. Trained as cellists, but comfortable on various instruments, what follows is a unique twist on the genres of alt-rock, folk, or any other style the pair find themselves in. Logan and Parker met at Florida State University in 2010, bonding over a love of King Crimson, the Beatles, and Pink Floyd, and collaborating on student film scores. After college, the 2 went their separate ways to pursue careers in music, but something about that decision nagged at them. Not until a past pandemic excursion brought Parker out to visit Logan and his husband on the Central Coast did it finally click. We should be making music, not just teaching it. The will was there, though the task seemed impossible. The 2 had never been in a band before and had only started writing songs in earnest after that fateful first visit Parker made. In the face of the unknown depths ahead of them, the 2 dove right in, feeling like, for the first time, they were hearing songs they've always wanted to hear but never gave themselves the license to make. It's a cathartic experience, taking this training and applying it to whatever new idea comes to mind. We're connecting with people throughout music in a way we never have before, and it feels like coming home. The band's vision is to create more than a great touring act, but use their training and penchant for collaborating to involve themselves with all parts of recording industry. From session work and onstage collaboration to professional songwriting, Walk the Whale fills a unique niche in the music world. That of professional players, easy to work with, that can deliver powerful original music or arrangements for any song that comes their way. To quote Peter Lewis, the founding member of the band Moby Grape, my dad,
There it is.
And truly one of Walk the Whale's very first fans, besides
It's
Chris
true.
Salonis.
Right.
We all love you. And he's gonna love Andras when he meets him too. So what my dad, Peter Lewis, said, Walk the Whale is the synthesis of great studio players and the artists they support, with songs that make you say, hey, that's me they're singing about. That's just true. I cried.
Love you,
listening to your
Peter.
music.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
I mean, same,
Yeah.
but I'm biased.
God. Well, let's dive right in. Andras, I thought we could start with you. Walk the Whale's been on the show before, so thank you guys for coming back. And Andras,
Happy to
thank
be
you
here.
for doing the show with us and for doing the radio show and this performance. It's going to be so
And
fun.
I gotta say, I have become a fan of Walk the Whale as
Aw.
well. I've been listening to their music. I've been listening to their music on Spotify, and I'm really looking forward to the show and getting to hear what it sounds like in the room.
Well, same.
Yeah.
So yeah, I cannot wait to hear it, especially in that place. And I thought we could chat a little bit more about the vibe of Lost Chord in a little bit. But Andras, I thought we could start by you telling us a little bit about your background in music and show business, and what inspired you to be a performance and recording musician.
Oh, I'm probably like most performers. I was inspired by, weird psychological patterns in my family that left me in need of, attention from strangers. I work with a lot of artists. I find that tends to be somewhat uniting. Either we got overwhelming praise from our parents who made us think that we were a gift to the world, or we got the opposite and a great need to fill that massive hole in our hearts, which I guess is kind of what my new single is kind of about. Get out of my head, get out of my heart, is trying to reprogram some of those patterns. So, but yeah, I've always loved music. I grew up, my parents had a great record collection. So very early on, I was listening to the Beatles and the Stones and Dionne Warwick and Burt Bacharach and Gilbert and Sullivan and some really great like Guys and Dolls, West Side Story, and Simon and Garfunkel. Those are probably the main ones in the family record collection. And yeah, and I love being creative. It's life can be pretty challenging, even if you're really a lucky and privileged person. Just like our internal lives and the world we live in can be very challenging, and being able to go into a room and create a world in a song that somehow makes sense of the contradictions you can't reconcile in real life is just an amazing gift to have. And whereas when I was younger, maybe I was doing it because I wanted to achieve something out there, I find that more and more for me, it's just the joy, whether it's performing on stage or writing, the joy of being able to create my world and to be doing something that is joyful, pushing air through my body, and having that come out as something that sounds good to my ears and feels good in my body. So yeah, that's what it is for me today.
And
Love that.
yeah, really, that's a really beautiful way to
Great.
explain it. Very human. And
I
so
am human, by the way.
are you?
What?
Hey.
Yeah.
I know. It's
What? Get out. Not
I-
true.
Well, were your bandmates and in Mr. Jones and the previous, were they human, and you released 5 records with them? Can you tell us about that? Was that your first band?
Well, no, the first band was the Boon with
Okay.
my very first band in high school was a band called Flying Fish, but we only played one show. But then my good friend Josh Claytonfelt and I had moved out to LA in the late 80s, or right out of high school. And he came out a year later, and we had a band called the Boon. And then that broke up. He went on to have the band School of Fish, which people might know their single 3 Strange Days from the mid 90s. And then I formed the band Mr. Jones and the Previous, and that was a rotating crew of characters who would eventually coalesced to like a pretty solid group when we took it on the road. And most of those folks have gone on to much cooler gigs or much more lucrative and high profile gigs. And I guess that means that mine is cooler.
The coolest.
Right.
Yeah, they're higher profile and more lucrative, but the previous was very cool.
Yeah, you get the credit.
And and we put out 5 CDs, did it all indie. We were the second band that I knew that had our own CD.
Wow.
We were always sort of ahead of the technological curve in some ways, which doesn't always work for you. You should actually be right on time as opposed to ahead of things. I think I was the first. I'm definitely the first artist I ever knew who's put out MP3s. I actually had little floppy disks at my show,
Nice.
and I would sell them for $1. You can have this song on MP3, and people, what's an MP3? Pay attention, folks, it's coming.
Yeah.
Wild.
So
how were you so ahead of the curve? How did that happen?
I guess, well, several of my family members worked at MIT my grandfather was the head of the engineering department at MIT in the late 60s and through the 70s, and my mom worked there. And so I guess I had an early access to the internet. And so I just sort of like that kept me on that tack a little bit. But also I was living in Olympia, and a lot of my friends were computer nerds. I guess that's because that's my family. That feels like the familial vibe for me. And they were always saying, "Oh, you need to check out this. You need to check out that. You need to try. You need to have a website. What's a website? Oh, well, I'll help you build it. One page with your picture on it and one song playing." But yeah, so that was probably why.
Well, that's really interesting, and it's cool because I feel like that. I mean, nowadays, if you're ahead of something like that, it is still kind of hip. Everybody's like, "Oh, what's that? That guy knows what it is. I'm going to his show." Well, yeah. And so then what inspired you to become a solo artist? And I know you've been working on these songs on this recent album that you're going to be releasing, Recognize, De-escalate, Decode, for quite some time. So yeah, what inspired you to be a solo artist? And tell us a little bit about this album.
Well, I guess, I don't know. Aren't we all solo artists in some way? I mean, I think, sorry. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't know how to answer that about being a solo artist, because I just have always felt like, even when I was in a band, except when I was in the Boom, which was a full-on collaboration, I've always written the songs and brought them to the players. But this record that I've just finished, it's called Recognize, De-escalate, Decode, and it's the first one that I really took on the role as the producer and decided I was going to basically work on one song at a time and finish it to the point where I really liked it. And sometimes that process could take a year or a year and a half, because I included, the time to walk away from it for 3 months, because I needed to do that to be able to come back and listen to it fresh. And sometimes that meant realizing that we had got 1/3 of the way, or I and the musicians I was working with had got 1/3 of the way into the track, and it was too fast or too slow, or the vibe was wrong, and being willing to scrap it and start fresh again, which really meant just enjoying the process and not really thinking about releasing it, not really thinking about what it was going to be out in the world, really pleasing myself 100% in the recording process. And I really loved doing it that way. I mean, it's taken 10 years to make this record. So if you want to be prolific and you want to put out a lot of content, that's not the best way to do it. But if you want to be happy with the work, and now I'm in this great position of being able to promote a record that I'm 100% behind musically, and also in terms of what it's trying to say, which is really encapsulated in the title, Recognize, De-escalate, and Decode, which is, that's the ultimate point of the campaign for this record, is to try and encourage people to think about recognize, de-escalate, and decode, or recognizing, de-escalating, and decoding situations as they arise, because I feel like right now we're in a time where the natural or the societal response is to project and escalate and ignore, and
Right.
nothing is learned from that process. And it, you know, you can apply that to a lot of different areas. Some people will listen to it and say, oh, it's about this or it's about that. And it's like, it's really about how we deal with the situations that come up in our life. And are we going to recognize what's going on, lower the heat to a level where we can actually talk about it and figure out, is this a genuine problem? Or is it just a miscommunication? Is it just a misunderstanding? And to me, miscommunications and misunderstandings are a great opportunity to create communication and understanding. But I see a lot of situations where people see it as an opportunity to lash out and have a, I don't know, a temporary endorphin rush of feeling right, but then have to walk away from it and be like, oh, that I lost a friend, or I lost an opportunity to get to know someone who might, you know, I might be able to create community with. And I feel like in the world that we're heading into, that's the most important thing, is to find community with each other, with the, you know, just the people, our neighbors, the people we come into contact with. Like I've gotten to know you, Arwen, or I'm looking forward to getting to know the guys in Walk the Whale when we played the show. And if something comes up at that show, some, I don't know, some controversial thing, or someone has a bad day, my intention is going to be to recognize that situation, not escalate it, and figure out what's really going on. Are you having a rough day? Do you need some support? Do you need some space? Do you need me to back off? Do you need me to help? Or, you know, or do you need to just do this on your own? Whatever it is, there's some communication there. So, yeah. And I guess going back to what you asked, as a solo artist, going back into my room and working through the things that happened to me as a person in life, all of these songs, I realized at some point, were trying to address the escalatory nature of our current social situation, and try and find a way to, you know, to bring some inspiration and to share this idea of there's a better way. There's a better way to deal with not understanding what another person is saying than deciding that they are evil.
Right.
Mhm.
Well, and I'm really excited. We're running out of time at this segment, but I'm really
Sorry.
excited to. No,
No, I mean, it's
that's exactly
fascinating.
what we wanted.
Yeah.
Right.
And what I wanted to say is that I'm so excited for the next segment, because I feel like Logan and Parker, you have a very similar philosophy, kind of. So I
was
can't wait.
just
to,
about to say,
Yeah,
yeah.
we'll offer our rebuttal,
Yeah.
which is an agreement.
Rebuttal.
Right.
I can
No.
really hear that in your music, guys. Yeah, it is beautiful. It's beautiful and totally de-escalating for me and my nervous system. When I listen to it, it brings me great peace. It puts me in a really great space.
Cool.
Yeah. So.
We need to
Yeah.
convince people that our music will de-escalate your nervous system. 'cause-
Yeah. Can I quote you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Quote number 2.
Yeah.
Music that de-escalates.
There we go.
Everybody, this is Arwen Lewis. You're listening to the Arwen Lewis Show. We're just getting started on this awesome interview with Andras Jones and Walk the Whale. And Andras Jones, Walk the Whale, and myself will be performing, splitting a bill at Lost Chord Guitar on Saturday, February 24th at 8 p.m. You can get tickets at lostchordguitar.com. Look up Andras Jones on Instagram at Andras Jones, ANDRASJONES. On Facebook under Andras Jones, and his website is previouslyyours.com. He's got a new record coming out called Recognize, De-escalate, and Decode, and we're playing some tracks from that today. And you can look up his current single, Get Out of My Head, on any of your favorite digital listening platforms now, and the record will solely be out on April 19th. And Walk the Whale, find them on Instagram at Walk the Whale Band, on Facebook under Walk the Whale, walkthewhale.com. And we'll be right back. Please enjoy Walk the Whale's new single, Another Day.